welcome to the first session of the capacity building workshop for the Western Cape artist. Before I then go into an extensive welcome, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Buleng Lesala. I'm an Arts Development Officer for Visual Arts. I've been with the NEC for 14 years. I would like to welcome all of you. Some of your names, I know them. Some of the names that I'm seeing them for the first time. I'm welcoming those who are coming for the first time, and I'm welcoming those who are coming for the third time, fourth time, sixth time. Welcome. To the panel members, if they are here, welcome. To the council members, if they are also here, welcome to our first session. I would like to also state the reason why we're doing this sessions. The capacity building workshop started as a conversation. We internally, since the last few years, we migrated to the online application. We've realized that a lot of applications have been, have been declined based on artistic merits and also on compliance. And for us to see this happening each and every year, it was showing that we're disservicing our sector. And we needed to form partnerships with all the provinces, with their own organizations that are industry players, that are currently in the spotlight and are known by the artists locally. And we have identified them by just them submitting their proposals, and we realized that they have more strength than us to run the capacity building workshops. So know that this intention is out of goodwill, and this intention is to build capacity so that we have more applications that are coming with very good compelling proposal that are meeting our criteria. I would like to thank every one of you that made it to the meeting today, and also to our partners who have done a very good job for bringing the materials together. And I've had series of meetings with them, and I've seen how they really have worked their way out to bring the documents together, and the material is worth it. I wish to urge each and every one of you to really concentrate for the next 2 days and put your mind into everything that is going to be given to you. It's worth it. And the reason why I'm saying that is that in the next couple of months, we are going to be having a series of funding sessions that are going to be proposed out there. So it's important that this capacity building prepares you for the next sessions that you're going to be seeing on our website, on our social medias. So I would like to really urge you that you really pay your attention. And without wasting time, I would like to thank our partners, which is the Association for Visual Arts, Craft Design Institution, ASSITEJ, and Suidoosterfees for putting all these workshops together and having our first day today. And I wish you all the best for the sessions, and I wish they can be as fruitful as I have seen them. And thank you very much.
I'll take over from here, Puleng, I think. Thank you so much for the introduction. Everybody can hear me. Yes, I'm unmuted. So I'm Miriam Asmal from the Association for Visual Arts, and we're very grateful for the opportunity, Puleng, to work with other partners on, getting more access to the National Arts Council funding. And I think it's hugely important. To start with, I'm so sad that we can't meet in person. I was one of the partners that was really pushing for having a face-to-face meeting with other partners in the sector, because we all know the benefits, I think, of seeing faces and being able to work together. So due to the taxi hassle in Cape Town, and again, problems on the N2 today, I think not many people would have reached the Artscape where I planned to meet all of you. So it's we're a little bit ad hocing to do this online now. It's not my preference, but of course, in the meantime, we're used to it after 2 years of doing Zoom and Teams talk. So please bear with me, but we'll kick it off. I'll tell you quickly what the plan of the two days, or actually 5 days, are. I still hear somebody in the background. Eh? It's best that you all keep your microphones unmuted unless I specifically ask, or any of the presenters ask for specific input. Or if you have a question, you're also welcome to unmute yourself and interject. I don't mind that. I think other presenters will tell you how they prefer to work. So I will start off the 2-day session. The first morning is Association for Visual Arts view on how to write proposals. And of course, we all know that the National Arts Council has a very specific template for writing your proposal. I'll take it a little bit wider because I think it's important that you know where proposal writing comes from in the larger sense. And from whatever components I present to you today, you'll always be able to complete your template for the National Arts Council. That is ultimately the goal of this session. So that's the morning session up till 12:30, and there'll be a little sort of half an hour break and work time where I'll ask you to do some work. It was supposed to be group work, but we'll figure it out. In the afternoon, our partner Suidoosterfees will take over to teach you report writing. That's a 2-hour session between 1 and 3. And there is, by the way, there's half an hour lunch break between 12:30 and 1 o'clock. And then we break for the weekend. And on Monday, you'll get back with ASSITEJ, our other partner.
Ja, dat is waar. Dus kan
We'll start with ASSITEJ at 10 o'clock on Monday morning, and they'll be teaching monitoring and evaluation. I'll refer to it in my presentation because you'll find out, I think, that this whole thing of fundraising is really interconnected. Every component connects to something else. So specifically monitoring and evaluation, very important, will be taught by ASSITEJ on Monday morning. And Monday afternoon, the National Arts Council and CDI will take you together through the actual templates in an online system of the National Arts Council, how to apply once the funding proposals are open again. And it also includes specifically compliance aspects of when, you need to have all your ducks in a row, all your documents in a row before you can actually submit a proposal. And again, it's important on many times. I think that's it for now. I want to particularly also thank Suidoosterfees and ASSITEJ and CDI because the truth is they've been the backbone of developing the concept of these workshops, right? Between the online and the in-person. And oh yeah, I forgot to say they're very important. There's a 3-day individual coaching sessions. They take place next week on the Tuesday, the Wednesday, and the Thursday. And I think you've all had the template and you've all signed in for a specific session if you wanted it. And in the specific one-on-one or small group sessions, you can ask your questions about your particular proposal, your particular organization. So let's not use the very individual questions in this general proposal. Not today, not on Monday, please. There'll be time for that next week later. I think I've said those things. And on that note, I think it's time to share my screen and start our proposal writing session. Okay, so what I'll teach you very sort of broadly, I'll try to answer questions like, when and to whom do you write your proposal? What are donors interested in? Who writes the proposal from within your organization? What must be in the funding proposal? I think that's kind of the core sort of meat in today's session. And why must each proposal be different? And particularly this why, what must be in a proposal? There are so many components, and I'll try to get you active at 11 o'clock in each of you writing a part of it, and then there'll be a session of sort of unpacking that afterwards. Okay, let's kick off with the first one. When and to whom? Now, I wanted this to be interactive. I don't know if it's possible, but you can either write in the chat or you can just open your microphone and tell me if you feel, like when does one write a proposal? At what stage of wanting to run a project, when do you start writing proposal and what are you waiting for and to whom do you send? Do you have any ideas that you can just throw at me? Pretend we're in one room in the artscape. I feared that this was going to happen. I know you would have talked to me if I was face to face with you. So just run to the next slide. Okay. Tell me.
Okay, I think when I write a proposal like for NSU or for anybody, I wait for the guidelines to come so that I can follow the guidelines. Then also I do all the other stuff like getting the proof of work ready, of the experience of the years that we did, or specific the event that we're going to host, all their photos and stuff. There is many things, so I do it before the calls comes out. So when the calls come out, I only follow the guidelines, and that's what I am doing. So I don't know.
Sounds
Yeah.
good. So you wait for a call for proposals, basically.
Yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
I think that's very clever. And if you're looking for to write to somebody else, if we think broader than the NAC, like when you know you're needing money, like what are you waiting for, or what are you looking for?
I specific looking for what I need to pass the test to get the funding, or for for the call to come out, maybe just something like that.
Sounds good. Sounds great. Okay, thanks so much. I really appreciate it. I work much better myself when you guys also talk to me. Even I don't see your face, but okay, here we go. So that was a good answer. I'll
Do you want to see my face? So you do want to see my face?
Yes, definitely want to see your face.
Okay. I'm an entrepreneur. Yeah, it's me, Mr. Muhammad Like. He's everyone.
Hi, how are you? Great to see you. Thanks.
Yes, yes, I'm good, ma'am. I'm good.
Great. I'm going back to what I prepared for you in the session of when and to whom. So, if you let's start with that. You said, like, very wisely, you wait for the call for proposals, and you're talking about the National Arts Council. I wonder, do you guys know where you can find other calls for proposals? Because it's never clever to put all your eggs in one basket. You should not apply only to the National Arts Council. So you should, the bigger you manage to diversify your pool of donors, the better. So I would, for one project, I would definitely target 4 or 5 or 6 donors, depending on the size of the project. And if you get 2 of them on board, you're lucky, to be honest. I think kind of a general trend is that often when you send 10 proposals, only 1 gets funded. That's kind of what you should start on going by. But as you carry on throughout your career, you'll improve on that. So at the Association for Visual Arts, I think we're kind of on 1 in 3 now, but that's a really good score. So keep following these notes and you might get there. But definitely look for more than one partner. And for example, do you all know that VENSA, the Visual Arts Network of South Africa, that they have a monthly newsletter, and in fact they have a website on which at any time you can check opportunities for funding, any other opportunity too. It's only for visual arts, and of course, I know that this team is this group of people is much bigger. But I think there's also Penza for performing arts if they still exist. But there are a number of, and what do I have here myself? Sorry. I'm showing you just 2 other opportunities where you can find calls for proposals. Inyatello is another organization, and they're based in Woodstock. It's a fundraising sort of teaching. Would they call it something else? I forgot it now. It doesn't matter. Oh, advancement. They call it advancement. They have a website where you can find at any time opportunities. I just cut out a little screenshot, but the list was like 30 opportunities are out there at the moment, and they updated it just this week. And finally, there is a handbook. I'm only showing you 3 options, but within your industry, you should check it out. Who places the call for proposals? There is this handbook. I brought it here. Where is it? Trialogue Business in Society. If you're still seeing me, then here's the handbook, but it's also on my screen. Trialogue is a company that produces every year a book that you can buy, or it's a free online version. And it's more for social corporate investment. So it's more private funding from the private sector, companies that like to support arts and other good causes. And it's a clever book where you can check, you know, Sasol and Investec and any of those big companies. You can check exactly what they fund and why, what their prerequisites is, and when they might have specific calls for proposals or specific deadlines. So on that note, let's go back quickly. Here was a, this is for calls for proposals. That's where you can look and find who you target. Then also, it's important that you target donors and ask for a meeting. So if you go through this handbook and you see that, for example, Investec supports visual arts, you could check if it's possible to organize a meeting for that with them. And so you organize the meeting before you send the proposal. You do sort of an introduction. Another type of fundraising is it's the same, but it's different. As in, once you go through your life as an organization, you find out that there'll be repeat sponsorship opportunities. Like if you have a donor and you worked with them really well, you had a great project that you ran with them, you send them a beautiful report, maybe they turned up for the opening of your event, you can write to them again. In fact, you should write to them again for another proposal, because you're creating your partnership with them. And clearly, if the first one was successful, there's a very good chance that they'll fund you again, as in a bigger chance than somebody who was a first-time donor. So you call that stewardship. And the way you deal with donors like them is you kind of keep them informed. You definitely make sure that they're on your mailing list so they hear everything you do. And then you invite them for certain things, for certain events that you're running, even if they're not a donor on that specific event. So you literally, you might send them a nice sort of thank you note, or, you know, at the end of the year, you send them a thank you for a year, or in the start of a new year and you have a new program, you hand them out the program and you visit them. Don't be on their doorstep every week, not at all. It's a very fine balance of, you know, how do you stay in contact with those people? And then you ask again if you have a new project. Other proposals are long-term proposals. They're great. And unfortunately, in South Africa, there are not many of them. But there was a time that the National Arts Council, for example, they did, I can't remember what it was called, Pulang would know better, but you could apply for a 3-year support, for example. So it was really kind of more like a partnership, they would also call it. And that's great, because then you can start building, you know what's coming also for the next year. Even though you must still report, you must still stay in touch and, you know, check every once in a while that you're still on track with what you promised to do. But it gives you a bit more space to, instead of spending months on raising funds for a new budget, for a new project, you can actually start the project because some core funding is already there. And then I'm sure you know there are other ways to raise funds other than proposal writing. You can organize an event and ask for ticket fees, you know, some income. You can do a public appeal and crowdfunding and through social media. Happens a lot and it's very effective, but I'd say it's for specific projects maybe. Or you can send a letter of appeal. I mean, ourselves, the Association for Visual Arts, we're age old. We started in 1850, and I'm sure a lot of you know us. But there were times, you know, in that 171-year-old life that we were nearly gone, you know, hit some bad economic patch, or a time when all of a sudden all the commercial art galleries sprout up and do very good work. You know, you all go through your valleys. And then, for example, there were times that we sent a direct mail to all our artists and asked for help. Like, for example, ask for donation of artwork so that we can put them on auction. So just to show you that there are more ways of fundraising than writing a proposal. Sorry. I showed you this already. You'll get my slides, I think, so you don't necessarily need to take notes. Here I'm asking for your help again. Somebody else, or the same guy, was very good. What are donors interested in? Like, you know, what makes you exciting for a donor? Can you throw a few notions at me, please? Anybody out there? That one too difficult?
Well, it's Rafik again, Mariam.
Yes,
Would that not depend on what donors, like you said, the book, you've given us an idea of what donors are interested in funding. How does one find that out? And then does that not inform how we decide what they are interested in?
that's perfect. Yeah, definitely. So if you need to be specific, that handbook on corporate social investments that Trialogue presents, they have a double page spread on every donor that literally lists what they are interested in. So that is really great answer. Thank you. There are a
But I,
couple of sort of
yeah. Maybe just to add to that, so that it, I don't know if it helps your presentation in the way that it gets to the participants, is that what I always do is I look for, when I look at programs of other similar projects like the ones I am interested in or that I have a need for funding for, I look at who the sponsors are. So, like for example, the Suidoosterfees, we would have all our sponsors on the back page, or and then you would know that these are people who normally fund this kind of thing, etc. So maybe that's also a good way to look at what sponsors are or donors are interested in.
true, very clever actually. I also do that. It's totally true. And we share as Association for Visual Arts. I don't know how much you see of me, but the back page of our brochure has all our donors on it also.
Mm-hmm.
And it's really true. It's like almost like a shortcut. Sometimes feels a bit sneaky, but it's not. You know, we're all sharing the same pool. So it's very clever to look at projects like yours and just see who's funded it, and you stand a good chance with approaching the same people. Yeah, great. Thank you. I should add it to my presentation. Yes, because I do it myself too. I'm going to show you the slide now because there are a number of sort of generals that donors, when you send your proposal to the National Arts Council or anybody else for that matter, there's a number of sort of bits of information that I know that they're looking for. I know it also because in my own career, I was 10 years long a grant maker. I worked for the Pro Helvetia, the Swiss Arts Council. And so the interesting thing, or what helped me, is that I also know what people are looking for when they open a random application. So of course, numbers are hugely important. And here I've given you one slide out of the actual National Arts Council application form. It was not this year, but another year. What are we? 2020, I think. Yeah. But of course, it's very important who are the beneficiaries and actually number the beneficiaries, how many of them. And unfortunately, sometimes, you really need to go into the nitty gritty bits of, go back into categories of skin color and disabled or not disabled and younger and older, and, categories that we usually like to not have to think about, but it's important that we do because we're also ticking the grant makers boxes. And of course, we're still advancing the society that is very disadvantaged, very unequal. Um, so make those numbers, even though sometimes it's impossible, like we say, how many people come through the door, how many black females, white females, colored males, how many disabled, young, is really difficult. But you can take like a snippet. Like for example, we check one particular month, we jot down who comes through the door, and on the basis of that, you can extrapolate more or less what you expect in your numbers. Like really think about it, don't suck it out of your thumb, but be quite specific, because in your report, again, you will be asked the same question. And it should be real if we want to advance the society in the arts, in real life. And of course, everybody wants a budget. There's no such thing as a proposal without a budget. That you can ask for 10,000 rand, but they want to know, what do you spend it on? What is it for? How much goes towards, for example, yourself? How much are you paid? How much are other staff members paid? How much is the project budget? And there are certain sort of keys for dividing. I know that many donors do not want more than 15% to go to admin, or more than 20% to admin plus staff. But again, do your research and find out more or less what is acceptable for the donor. Some donors do not fund equipment, for example. Yeah. So make sure that they might want to pay only project costs. They don't want to pay fixed costs, for example, nothing towards your venue or your electricity. It's possible, but it's better that you find it out first. Also, the maximum amount that they're willing to spend, or an average amount that they're willing to spend. Think about these things, do your research, because the truth is, I don't know how many of you saw the list of the last National Arts Council funding cycle. We did not get funding. I'm now presenting, but actually I'm one of you, because we were rejected with our proposal. And the reason was because we asked above the budget that National Arts Council had advertised of what they were willing to give in this particular funding cycle. And yeah, okay, I'm not gonna seek excuses for it, but it happens clearly, and it's dumb, because then you're out, that's it. Other donors, it's important, and later on I'll teach you how to write a budget, but it's very important to show that you're not only asking the National Arts Council, because that's precarious for them. Does that mean that they'll fund you now and then your organization is dead afterwards? They really want to know that you have also asked others, and that the onus is not only on them to support this project. We'll come back to that. The staff capacity is always important. So you have to show somewhere in your proposal that you can carry out this project. You know, you have the right people in the right place, people that are skilled, that are trained. So describe them somewhere. And then always, of course, the impact. Like, you have a project, but why do you run that project? Does it make the change that you are looking for? But more importantly, does it make the change that is needed in the art sector at the moment? And some of them, not all of them, are looking for this, but they might sort of, I think every donor will think by themselves, is this worth the risk? Does it look like this is, you know, a once and never again organization? Will I lose my money? Will they perhaps not be able to pull it off? Will I never hear from them again? So best is to try and creep into the skin of the donor. When you write your proposal, read it again and pretend you're not you, but you're the donor. Like, how do you read your own words? Okay, I think I need to speed up a little bit. So who writes the proposal? I'm not going to ask your input now. It's easier live, and I'm going to skip straight to, because there's a number of opportunities. Usually it's the CEO or the director or the head of the organization. And why? Because the head of the organization is also it's the face of the project usually. So people kind of, you might have met a donor already, and you know, this is your research before, and your hobnobbing and your networking before you even write a proposal. You might have talked about a proposal. You should actually, about your project. And then it's good if it comes from your hands, because you use the same language. And also usually the head of the organization knows the organization the best. So, you know the ins and outs, you know how this project relates to previous projects. You remember when this particular donor funded another one of your projects, and you can refer to that. You should refer to that in your proposal. But if it's you, do you know how to spell without mistakes? Because it's really irritating for a donor to find all sorts of errors in the proposal. I mean, it happens even a lot, but it's so let's say you stand out. It'll be so much better if whoever reads the proposal just reads through nicely. So sometimes it's worth to hire an editor. If you know that you're not faultless, like I am not, you make sure that somebody else reads, and even spend a little money, spend 500,000 rand on somebody editing your proposal and make it read nicely, and there'll be no mistakes. It's also possible, this is a totally different scenario, to ask an external fundraiser. I don't know how many of you have worked with it. I've worked as an external fundraiser, and actually, sadly, I do not recommend it. So a problem with that is that this external fundraiser doesn't know your organization nearly as well as you. So you might actually end up still writing a lot of the material yourself, or editing all the material yourself. And of course, the external fundraiser must be paid also. It could be a chunk out of your out of your funds. Like, I can't remember exactly, but I'd say a minimum of 6% would go to an external fundraiser, but it could run up to 15%. And importantly, a lot of donors don't accept that. A lot of donors do not want part of the budget that they give you, part of the funds that they give you, to go to an external fundraiser. So be aware of all those risks. The good thing is that an external fundraiser might know a lot of donors, and they can help you. They can help you open doors. So I don't really want to advise one way or another, but it might be useful sometimes to work with an external fundraiser for a number of months, like for 6 months or something, to get you going into the fundraising landscape and to find out which donors there are. But then you must be very close to that external fundraiser and probably eventually take over and write the proposals yourself. I think I've gone over time. What time is it? 10:33. Okay. What goes into a fundraising proposal? Are you all still with me, or must I go slower? This is your time to tell me. I talk too fast or too low. Okay, here's where we're going to go a little bit interactive. I quickly check my own timetable, which is somewhere else. It's on here. Okay, it's fine. We're perfectly on time. I've got half an hour for this until the logic model tutorial. Okay, what goes into a fundraiser proposal? Throw a few things at me, please. Want your answers? Now we're at the stage of writing.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
I think what goes into a fundraising proposal are the aims and objectives of the project which you intend to do. A clear breakdown of the budget. How much are you going to spend in order for you to do the project?
Definitely.
Thank you so much.
Definitely. Thank you. Yes.
Could we just ask Miriam if maybe people can identify who they are in the organization as they speak? Then we know who's speaking.
Yeah, very good. Thank you.
Yeah.
Because this is also for networking. We're supposed to get to know each other in this session. Any other input?
I think also you can also imply your vision and your mission basically to how you're gonna achieve your goals for the project through your vision and through your mission with when you write a proposal. You can use your mission and your vision.
Definitely, that's what describes your organization. So it's like your business cards. You're telling you need.
Live here have already, yeah.
Hi. Who's that? I thought there was another voice, but maybe not. Okay, I'll go to my next slide in which you can see what are some of the standard components that can go into a proposal. Of course, you'll see my final slide is one that the National Arts Council themselves presented to us to say that actually creativity is also in the writing of a proposal. So you really need to use your own creativity to match your proposal to a particular donor. We'll get there. But the point is that there are certain standard components, and I'll teach some of them to you. And be prepared. I'm going to ask for a volunteer to do some speed dating with me on proposal writing just now. So think about that. If that should be you. Okay. For all my presentation, I'm using real life examples. I thought it works best because these are all proposals that I really have written myself and for the Association for Visual Arts, the company of the gallery and visual arts organization that I represent. Some of them were successful, some of them not. I'll tell you what and how. And I think I owe it to you to share with you real life models. So I don't mind if you copy things, it's totally fine. What goes into a funding proposal? Here is one here on the left that I wrote to Strauss & Co. They are an auction company and they're also very old, very established, and they auction art. So it's a secondary visual art market, whereas we are the primary. You know, we sell directly from the artists, and they sell works that other people, people that have bought the works no longer want them in auction. That's a different thing. And they are actually a long-term donor from us. They have been supporting us since I think 2015 on an ongoing basis with not very large amounts, but very meaningful. I know that if there's a problem, or in fact, every year I can ask them for about 30,000 rand, something like that, as long as I report properly, I credit them properly, and I actually, we send them little cakes for Christmas, believe it or not. We really, we do our stewardship in this case, in all cases. And of course, we credit them everywhere. And then if there is a proposal, I look for the project in the year that I think Strauss & Co. might like to want to put their name to. And then I'll ask for another sort of 30,000 rand. So what do I put in the proposal to them? Definitely the cover page. I think it's something people forget, actually. I used to forget when I started for the first time. But I said earlier, business card. This is your business card. The moment something arrives and it has a nice front cover. And a trick I learned is to put the logo of the prospective donor there on the page with your logo. It's like some subliminal thing where they see the two of you already together, and somehow it does something to the mind there. It's established, like the partnership is already established by you. The two logos are there on one page, and there's the project duration, then your address. They need to immediately know who you are, and they need to immediately be able to click your website, and then of course make sure your website also looks good. Your own name and your numbers, how to contact you immediately. When they quickly just grab this proposal from their desk, they need to know how to contact you without having to fiddle through the pages. And also the type of organization, like anything you have to show for yourself, your registration number, how old you are, since when, your public benefit status, your auditors, make sure that they can quickly verify. And this is some sort of stamp of approval that you really exist and you have your ducks in a row. So make it a nice proposal. There's actually something missing from this. I don't know if somebody sees that. But I really think that there should be a date. The date of the proposal is also very important on the front page, so that they know that, oh gosh, it's a whole month now that I have not replied to this proposal. It's important that you state when you wrote the proposal. And then the summary, here's where I'm going to ask you. You start the first page or the second page with a summary of an introduction, including the ask. So what you want from this company, whether it's in-kind support, like can you be our publicity partner if you write to the Cape Times, or or Bush Radio or sometime, or can you support us with 30,000 rand, or can we ask you for XYZ? Put it immediately on the first page so that they know, before they read the rest, they know. This is where I like to do this little thingy of speed dating with one of you, because your summary and your intro, I don't know if anybody's ever done speed dating. I've done it in the sense of an art project years ago. It's a system where you have, like, for example, 3 minutes or 5 minutes or 2 minutes to talk to somebody, and then see if there's a connection with that person to carry on talking. And it can be for art, it can be for dating romantically. But in this case, your summary and your intro is literally that. If you don't grasp the attention of a donor in that first sort of 2 or 3 paragraphs, then actually you're lost. It shapes the glasses that the donor puts on to read the rest of your proposal. The nitty gritty, your aims and objectives may all sound good, but if you haven't sound good in that first intro, then they're not likely to look at you positively. And the opposite is true. If you just open up with a bang and really look interesting and solid, they will look at you seriously. So I would like to play, for like a 90-minute session, I would like to play the donor. And can one of you come talk to me as the applicant or the grant seeker? And can we spend 90 minutes live here in the session where I ask you questions, you introduce? It's as if we meet accidentally, we meet accidentally at Artscape because we're both watching a performance, and you end up sitting next to me, and I'm pro Helvetia, let's say that, because I used to work for them, or I could be the National Arts Council. And then you actually happen to have a project that you're seeking funds for. How are we going to talk for 90 minutes? Come, somebody, stick out your neck. And I'm going to run a real clock.
Hello.
Rafik? No, it's not Rafik. Hi.
Hello.
Hi. Are you?
Not me. It's not me.
Hello.
It's not me. Hello.
Hi.
Have I got a volunteer?
Hello.
Hi. Are you going to look? You can't say hello 3 times in the 90 minutes.
It's Vuyiswa Lamfiti that's speaking to you.
Hi, Vuyiswa. So
Hi, Madam.
I'm gonna start the clock now, right? So we're gonna be real. You've got 90 seconds to chat to me. So hi, how are you?
I'm great, thanks. And how are you?
I'm good too, thank you.
Okay.
You say that you run an NPO.
Yes, we have a campaign that we are running, a Pakama Africa campaign to reset collective mindset to Ubuntu and self-reliance. And this done through activities that promote books. So currently, last year, 2021 was the year of Charlotte Maxeke. So we're commemorating Charlotte Maxeke's story and the 150th with 150,000 books. Currently, there's a poem at schools, in high schools, nationally, all schools doing isiXhosa, a poem by S.E.K. Mkai, prescribed at grade 12. Unfortunately, students and some of the teachers don't know the story. The title of the poem is Umfikazi Charlotte Maxeke. And we're linking the poem to the book, Beauty of the Heart, Life and Times of Charlotte Maxeke, the book written by Zubeida. So we want to commemorate the 150th with 150,000 books, donating the books at all the schools that are doing the poem.
Thank you, you're done. Your 90 seconds is up. Did you hear the timer? So that was very good. Thank you. It was very good, and still there were a few things missing. So I'm going to be, brutal, because this is your teaching session. So I think you should. It would have been good to leave a break somewhere for me to say ha, or how, or what. So it would have been good to leave a little moment for me to ask another question if I wanted it to go into another direction. Of course, it should have. There should have been the ask. Remember, you're looking at it. Somewhere in your 90 seconds, but of course you didn't know when it was going to end. Somewhere you should have said, we're actually looking for a donation of 5,000 rand towards blah, 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 blah. So then I'm already shaping my mind. So don't wait with that too long, because within 90 seconds, somebody, we're in the age of social media and everything is speed. So somebody might have already lost the attention. Something else I was thinking while you were talking. Oh yes, it's important, even though you did, it's important that there is a passion in your short statement. It should really show that you feel for this thing. It's not just something that you're running, you really feel this must be done. So words of passion are important. But thanks so much for Yusra. Stuck your neck out there, and it sounds like interesting proposal also. So make it short and punchy. That's summary in the intro. Then the main body comes afterwards, and the main body, in a way, you go straight back. You see here I've underlined a number of the components. Those components, in the next session, I'm going to ask people to actually write, and then we'll deal with them in a little bit more detail. Somebody's asking something? No. Okay. So there's a statement of need is again kind of the first impression. So when you write a proposal, you really must phrase why. Why are you asking for money? What type of change do you want to see affected in this landscape? So I'm going to read out there a number of different sort of sorry, my English ways of explaining a statement of need. But a statement of need should outline the problem that you're addressing, and it can include some statistics to make your point. So, for example, you can say we're needing to feed children because whatever 4% of children are currently underfed. I don't know what. According to the Department of Social Development, there are 3,000 homeless street children under the age of 12 in Cape Town, many of whom are suffering from malnutrition, scurvy, rickets, and scabies. And then the Tanzami feeding scheme plans to create a new project that will provide 500 hot, nutritious meals a day to help the shelter in Ruland Street and to ensure that these children have the best possible chance of recovery. So you see, I'm using numbers immediately in that statement of need, but they must be real numbers. They cannot be thumbsucks and they cannot be estimates. So you must have done your homework to find out exactly what change do you want to affect and to what extent, and be real there. Statement of need is always short, always. Yeah. It shows that you're passionate. It's very much like your summary and your ask and your intro, but it can be slightly longer and it can include statistics. And then, of course, the next part is how you will meet this need. So who are you? What is your organization? The two afterwards, how will you meet this need, and your history and successes can go together. So here you explain why you are the institution that can best serve this need. It's a little bit competitive, so there might be others that are trying to address this need, but what makes you different? Why should this donor invest in you for creating this change? Now, somebody mentioned it before, there's the project aims and objectives. I'm saying aim with a S between brackets, and objectives, because they're fundamentally different. Some people say there can be only one project aim and then there are different objectives. I don't know if you know the difference between the two. There's quite a crucial difference between aims and objectives, even though they're very often used in sort of one mouthful. Does anybody know what the difference between aims and objectives is? Michelle, I'll help you out immediately. So the problem is the aim. The aim is directly connected to this. How will you meet this need? The aim is connected to the changes that you want to see in your target group, the people that you're trying to reach. So the aims is often just one, and the aims lead to outcomes. So for your aim, you use words like verbs that describe a change. For example, I want to improve, the reading amongst school children, or I want to develop dancers to be able to, do international exchange, or I want to reduce the numbers of artists who can't make a living from their artworks, or I want to promote visual arts, or I want to enable musicians to own their own instruments, and so use verbs that describe a change. So it's very closely connected, your aim or aims. I think there's actually one aim because it's directly connected to the needs that you're sorting. You can describe it in passionate words, but it's directly connected to the needs that you're trying to address. And objectives, on the other hand, they're often quantitative. You can count them. So the aims is a qualitative thing. So it's an improvement of some sort. And the objectives is something you can count, and it leads to outputs. So for objectives, you use verbs that show an action. This becomes part of your activity plan, such as I want to increase the number of books in every school to, from this to that, or I want to organize, or I want to set up, I want to provide, or to run. I want to run workshops. I want to produce new theater plays. I want to anything that describes an action. And you'll see later when we start talking about the logic model that it comes into these verbs you also use in your set of activities that describe your project. So just summing up, aims is directly connected to a change and an improvement and a qualitative improvement. And objectives is directly related to numbers and statistics and actions and activities. And aims produce outcomes and objectives produce outputs. It might sound weird now, but it's going to come back in the logic model. You see it all. Okay, this is just still kind of an introduction. Usually donors ask for a time frames, an implementation plan. If you see implementation plan and it shocks you, it literally is actually a time frame. So it's some sort of schedule in which you say from January till March, I'm doing desk research. Then from March till March and April, I book the artists and I sign contracts with them. And then from June till August, I run the production of my project. And then don't forget, from August and in September, I'll do my evaluation and I write reports to the donors. So think through the entire lifespan of your project and jot it down in a schedule with dates, or it can be approximate, but make sure that they see that you've actually planned this out. And of course, that planning must correspond with your budget. So if you say this project is lasting, what am I saying here? 6 months from July till December is my particular project here. Make sure that the time frame your implementation plan mentions, July, August, September, November, December. Did I miss October? Yes. Make sure that you state exactly which activity will you do in the months that you're describing. The methods and activities, this is now your objectives. So your objectives are kind of the same as the activities you do. So you run 3 workshops and then you produce 1 publication at the end of that, for example. We'll work it out in a logic model. I think it's the next slide. Some donors ask for your project partners. I don't always put it in. It kind of depends on how much time I think the donor has to read my thing, but it might help to describe that, in fact, you have a partnership with Bush Radio that has agreed to report on your project on a weekly basis while it's running, or on a monthly basis, or you are partnered with, let me think now quickly, with a printing house that prints your brochures at half cost. Any partnership, kind of in kind or monetary, if you already have an agreement with the province to support one of your other projects, mention them, because it's your stamp of approval. If they find you a valuable partner, then the National Arts Council or whoever you're writing to could also do so. So yeah, you're showing off there. It's your you're showing your feathers. The beneficiaries, of course, I mentioned it. It must be it's something that your donors want to know. They often want to know it very specifically. Who is your target audience, or for who are you doing that? Who is going to benefit, monetary or skills development? Who is going to benefit in what way? So this is connected to the outputs and the outcomes. I'm not going to hang on it here because we're going to describe it in a logic model. Okay, that was the main body of the proposal. This describes your body of the proposal, describes your project actually, and the activity plan of what you're going to do. And then you must talk money. So what do you want from the donor? And how are you covered the full budget? There's a big difference between the budget for your proposal, like how much do you need to run this entire project, and what is the budget that you're asking this specific donor. And of course, at the end of a budget must be the specific amount that you're asking from the donor. You'll see the full breakdown in the next slide. Most proposals have a conclusion, and I often add, I like to work with bullet points. I often write 4 or 5 or 6 bullet points of why should you support. I literally write down at the last page, why support this project? And you can say things like, because it corresponds to your objective that you found on their website of, reaching out to this particular target audience, or because we can prove financial sustainability for the past 10 years. So you mention a number of things that are good about you and this project, and that should be particularly interesting for this donor. Finally, there are attachments, so make sure you add some photographs. Certainly if you work in the visual arts, but anybody actually. Don't make it a dry document that's only lists and lists and bullet points and full paragraphs of words. Intersperse it with nice pictures, 3 to 5, because again, don't overdo it, because then a document becomes too heavy if you send it digitally. Think of everything. Add a brochure if you have one. If you send a hard copy proposal to anybody, make sure there is some documentation that shows who you are, even if it's another project that you've run from your organization. Just an example of how professional you are. Your MPO registration document, if you have it, is very important. They'll ask for it anyway otherwise, but add to it when you can. And any reviews that have appeared on you on this particular project, any sort of snippets of newspaper articles that describe the need that you talked about in your statement of need. And references, if well, I add, if say it's MOCA, I ask for references, even just sort of randomly. Well, the National Arts Council asks for them too, but it's very important that like-minded organizations in your industry know you and recommend you. It can be very short, but yeah, add this to your proposal. Again, it means that you mean something in this branch. Time-wise, I'm perfectly on time. I hope you're still breathing, because let me check again my schedule. No, not notes. No. Basically, okay. I'll quickly show you the logic model before we do the group work. We have another 15 minutes, guys, of listening to me, and then I'll get you all to do some work. Back to my presentation. This is that logic model that I mentioned it a number of times. I'm mentioning it here and I'm mentioning it here. Actually, the whole sort of meat of your proposal can be put into a logic model, sometimes called a log frame. And a log frame is something that's actually borrowed from social sciences, because I don't know if you've realized, but sometimes it's very difficult to ask for money for the arts, or to explain why your art project is so important, because it's often seen as a sort of elitist even. We all know it's not, but to people who are trying to support health issues and education issues, the arts are often sort of the extra, when everything else is done. So, and we don't even have the sort of the science to show. Not everything in arts can be explained in numbers. Even when I'm saying objectives must be statistics and numbers. It's not. How can I say this to you? It's not so important that Artscape seats are all filled for your production, because maybe even if it's half full, but even there's 3 people in the audience whose lives are changed because of what they saw you perform. That happens. It's something that's specific to the arts. It can creep under your skin and it stays with you, and years later or days later, something happens to you and you're reminded of this artwork that you saw, this production, and it can literally change your life. So we are in this sector where there's a lot of qualities that cannot be quantified. And that's why we borrow from other donors. Still want to see the numbers, you see? They don't want the airy-fairy, I will improve the lives of 5 artists. It's not factual enough. So we borrow a logic model. You don't have to do it, but I do it almost always, even if I don't send it to the donor. It's a good way of organizing your thoughts and making sure that you know everything, that you can actually run your projects. And while you run your project, you can go back to your logic model to see if you're not forgetting anything. So you start literally with the inputs, and then you think of everything that you might need to run your project. And it starts, for example, with simple. This is again one I really have used, and this time I wrote to Pro Helvetia. I'm now working for the Association for Visual Arts, and I'm writing to the organization that I used to work for, Pro Helvetia, trying to look for funding. I did not get this grant, but I'll tell you anyway. So I'm telling them literally, I'm looking for time. If I want to run this project, and it was, I think, a Lounge Plus, it was for podcasts. Yeah, it was a series of podcasts that we wanted to run. Finally, the National Arts Council funded it. Thank you very much. So I'm looking for time from CH stands for Swiss in this case, from Swiss and from Southern African artists, because it's a project where I wanted Swiss and Southern Africans to talk to each other. It's a particular pandemic project. So we wanted to do online sort of podcasts between Switzerland and Southern Africa. We ended up running them with National Arts Council funding with South African participants. So we needed the time of these people from local partners and from our own team and management. We needed time from our admin staff, from the managers, and from the media liaison people. So I'm mentioning time because time is also money. It means that later in the budget, I'm budgeting for the exact or the approximate amount of time that it cost me as AVA management to run this project. So you'll find it back in the budget. We need partners. So this is not a project we can run by ourselves. If we want to run podcasts, record podcasts with Swiss and Southern African artists, we need to, approach those artists and ask them to be partner of us. Partners can be financial partners. So it would be the Swiss Arts Council, the Swiss Consul General, because they would help us with access to artists. It would be Pro Helvetia Johannesburg, the local Pro Helvetia office, regional arts institutions, because I'm saying that we're talking to Southern African artists. So we need to find these artists. And the best way is to work through our own partners in the region, like arts associations in Zimbabwe and the National Gallery in Namibia. Artists themselves become partners once they sign up to run podcasts with us. And of course, the donors, when they sign up to grant us funders. So you literally spell them out. Then you say exactly which staff you will need to run this particular program. So not all the staff from the Association for Visual Arts, but definitely we need one coordinator, somebody who sets it all up. We need a content developer or a media liaison, somebody who can market this project. We definitely need an administrator, because once payments are made, who's going to capture those? And it has to be a professional person. Can be part-time. I'm saying we don't need sort of full-time people for this particular project. They can all be part-time, and they can all be in-house, because we happen to have people who have time to run this project. We need some external expertise, because, for example, we don't have a technician in-house at the Association for Visual Arts who can set up those podcasts. We don't have a camera operator in-house. So these are people that we'll need to hire externally. You'll find it back in our budget, of course. Of course, we need a venue. We both need an office from which we prepare all of this, and in which we report, and from which we make the payments, etc. And we need, in this case, we needed a salon, because podcast will take place in a specific room that is set up to have these conversations. For that salon, it's actually salon and lounge is the same word in this case. We need furniture and fittings. So this, again, you'll find it back in our budget later. We need equipment, such as computers, a projector, sound and audiovisual recording equipment to start recording podcasts, and mention everything, because again, they'll find it back in the budget with amounts. You need materials, such as some stationery, some mapping tools. Mapping was part of this project, where we want to talk with external partners on how you can run projects virtually if we cannot meet in person, which we couldn't in the past 2 years. We need Wi-Fi. If you want to record podcasts, we need high-speed Wi-Fi. So there needs to be proper internet connection and a phone line. That means, again, that in your budget, I'm quantifying specific number of months in which we have extra internet, extra high-speed Wi-Fi, and that there is an amount attached to it. And then some refreshments, of course. We need to serve coffee. And in fact, we felt for this project, if we have long-term discussion session, we need to actually feed people. So we really went out to put some refreshments on the budget and to feed people. So these inputs, with all of this that we now own or have, we can run activities. Activities is the methods that you put in your body of your proposal. And activities you can diversify in preparation and production. I do that, you don't have to do it, but it kind of helps you. This is also your timeline, you know. I'm saying here that between June and September, we are actually just preparing. All we need is our office. And in our office, we do the desk research for the partners. It constantly links to each other. Do you see? The desk research, we find the partners and the artists in the 2 specific regions. We select them, we draft agreements with them. We set up the lounge, we furnish it. Is it here? Probably. We set up this space where we need the furniture and the camera and the equipment. We set up the schedules of which podcast when. We draw up a detailed travel and production budget. So who travels from where and what exactly does it cost? Because of course, by the time you're proposing this project, you don't know it exactly. You put a number of flights or bus transports there, but now here you're making it real. You draw up an expected challenges plan. This is very detailed. You don't use this in every time, but some donors like to see that you've already anticipated that there can be another variant of the COVID that actually stops all the flights. An airport might be closed, and that means then that some of this cannot be carried out, and you're already expecting this challenge and you're already addressing the challenge. It's a specific format that if you ask me, I'll send you a template for that, but it's going into it's when you ask for R500,000 somewhere, would be useful to put it in. Think about it anyway, even if you don't put it in your proposal. Think about which challenges might occur in the path of your project. And then here, where ASSITEJ will help you on Monday, you draw up an integrated marketing plan and a monitoring and evaluation plan. ASSITEJ will tell you on Monday how to make a monitoring and evaluation plan. You prepare with that because evaluation runs throughout your project. It's not something at the end. And here I'm going into the production. They're literally the activities to run the sessions that you're proposing, to document the sessions, to unroll the marketing plan that you planned here. So now you're actually doing the media liaison there. And the monitoring and evaluation plan. You're planning it here, but here you're going through the actions or immediately asking input from your participants on how this project works for them. And of course, never forget that you write evaluation report. It's part and parcel of your project. Am I running out of time? No. Remember outputs and outcomes. There's a difference. And the difference is that outcomes are connected to your aim and outputs are connected to your objectives or your activities. So the outputs are directly after the activities because there's an immediate link. So if we run 6, and outputs are quantitative. Remember, you can count the outputs one way or another. Outcomes not. They're describing a quality or change, but you can generally not count that. So if we run 6 Lounge Plus sessions that turn into podcasts, we anticipate to reach 22 till 50 artists. And I've counted those. And there'll be artists from various disciplines. There'll be performing artists and visual artists and writers and filmmakers. And what we will do, these artists, after running those 6 lounge projects, they will be trained for lockdown art exchanges, after the pandemic. So in fact, through these sessions, we're aiming to train people to run projects online if we can't do them live. Even this one, I'm still so sad about it. You count everything. So you're repeating yourself. You know, an output is that we now actually run 6 Lounge Plus sessions. And out of every Lounge session will be another design for a project. So every time we speak with a number of artists and we come out with a type of project that could be run online, you literally dissect your project into everything that can be counted. There was a return travel for 22 people that were selected. So actually 22 people got to travel. 12 of them, some of them turned into 12-day residency. If they came from far, we actually housed them in Cape Town. That means that the people that came from Switzerland or from Zimbabwe and were on a 12-day residency, they had access to markets here, international and Cape Town markets. There is a significant network enrichment. You could say this is an outcome. Can also be an output, because you can say how many people's networks are augmented, how many people, how many new people did every artist meet. You could count it. I'm not going into this detail here because it's too nitty-gritty, but literally you could if you wanted to. I'm not going to go through everything, but you'll get this as a slide. But anything that you can count from your activities, put it in a list called output. And now you're going into the ephemeral, the more qualitative, the things that sometimes maybe count more in the art. The fact that you have in the short term, I'm diversifying between short and long term. You don't have to do it, but it helps you shape your mind around your project. So we are developing artist skills to run projects in cyberspace. We never knew that we could in 2022 already run live projects again or in-person projects, but you know we needed to learn to continue our profession, but in cyberspace. So we were developing these skills. You can't measure it in numbers. There would be recognition for Pro Helvetia as the facilitators of these type of new formats. So recognition, you know, is something about your reputation, and you can't really measure it in numbers. A recognition for us too, for the AVA, as you know, doing what we say we do in our aims and objectives, in our vision and mission. We say that we promote the discursive and experimental nature of contemporary art. Well, having to run into cyberspace is pretty experimental. So I'm telling here that, you know what, it would be good for us to run this project because we actually stick to our aim, to our major vision. There will be economic benefit for participating artists. We might not be able to measure it immediately. Some could be measured. So we could say everybody gets a stipend of whatever, 500 rand, and I could put it as an output. But here I'm saying, you know, the economic benefit is something that possibly comes later. So after they've done the project with us, they know now how to run a project in cyberspace. That should it should give them the skills to make money at a later stage with a project like in this field. There are opportunities for follow-up exchanges. So now that they have increased their networks, so there have been people from Switzerland and Southern Africa in one room with us, whether it's virtual or in person. Now that they have increased the network, it's very, very possible that a Zimbabwean artist will invite that Swiss artist back for a project that they're running next year. So can't measure it now, but there are likely outcomes. Increased confidence, increased visibilities. And in the longer term, we're going even more mystical and more things that you can't grasp so easily, but demystification of stereotypes around art in cyberspace. I don't know how to explain it, but I'm sure you know what I mean. A greater general awareness for partnerships, recognition of the contemporary relevance of digital art. Digital art forms in the past might have been seen as not as important as actual paintings and sculptures. But a project like this, and in fact, after the pandemic, we all realized that digital art forms count as much, if not slowly more than physical art. Okay, I'm running out of time. Yeah, 17. Is there a question now that you want to ask me? I want to give you an opportunity to ask me something about the logic model, because I'm going to ask some of you to describe some activities, and I'm going to ask some of you to make a list of outputs in the next 15 minutes. There's something you want to ask me? Have I lost you guys?
Here we are here.
You're still there. That's very good. You're not sleeping yet. Oh my goodness. You have a question? No. Okay. Guys, the next there is a question.
No, because of my network also is a bit bad. I don't have any question. I've been in and out from the session trying to find a proper network. But now
Oh, I'm so sorry. That
no,
is
it's fine.
horrible.
I'll just catch up on the recordings.
Okay.
Thank you, Mom.
That's great. No problem. So the next, we are now 11:15. Actually, we have about 15 to 20 minutes now, where I'm going to ask you, this should have happened in person, right? We should have now divided into little groups, and you each get a part of the proposal writing to do, and then we talk about it between 11:30 and 12. Now that we can do that, you know, those of you who desperately need to go to the toilet or make another cup of coffee, you can do that. But if I would really appreciate, and it would help the group and yourself, if some of you write a statement of need. I'll tell you again what it is. I'm looking for a few people to write a statement of need, a few people to write project aim and objectives, a few people to write activities, you know, this part of the logic model, they're all, and some people to write a list of outputs and outcomes, and make sure you diversify. And what I'm asking for is a statement of need is 2 or 3 paragraphs. Make it real, you know, talk about your own organization, because we'll unpack it afterwards in the next 30 minutes, and I'll give you advice. If some of you can write 2 or 3 paragraphs that really state, you know, in this very short but passionate, and if necessary with numbers and statistics, why your project needs the attention of this donor. I'll give you my email address and you can email it to me in the next 15 minutes. Some of you, can you write down of your real project, your real organization, I would say 1 aim and 2 or 3 objectives. Remember, the aim is the quality, the change that you want to see. The objectives is the activities that you'll run to reach that aim. The objective is, so it's qualitative, quantitative, so things that you can count. Another group of you, or one of you, go back to this logic model and write a list of activities, sometimes referred to as methods in a project proposal. So from your real life project, which activities are you planning? You can diversify in preparation and production, or just give me one list. I don't really mind. Sorry. And the last one is, I'd like some of you to work on outcomes and outputs, which was here. Make sure that you list a number of outputs that your project will give the donor, the things that you can count, and a number of outcomes, things that you can't count. Do you guys feel confident to do this? And if I write my email address in the, oh, I'll give it to you on the last slide. Within the next, can we meet again? It's now 22. Can we meet at 35, at 40, 11:40? I would like to meet you guys again. And I'll put the in-between slide. And those of you who are daring to give any of those four parts, components of a proposal, please write it to me at miriam@ava.co.za. And then the next 30 minutes after 11:40, I will unpack some of what you sent me. Any questions on that?
Hi,
I'm sorry, madam.
Can you say it again?
Tell me.
Can you read out your email address, please?
Can I give that back? Yes, shall I write it in the, here I'm looking for statement of need, aims and objectives. Shall I keep this slide up and then I'll write my email address here. I'll write my email address. I'll write it in the chat. It's miriam@ava.co.za. It's in the chat now. You'll see it. So my email address is in the chat and I'm placing the slide where it says what I'm looking for. I'm looking for a statement of need, an objective with a number of, one aim with a number of objectives, a list of activities, and a few outputs and a few outcomes. I'd love to see what you guys come up with. And mistakes are good in this case. Actually, I'd love if some of you make some mistakes because then I can point them out and you can all learn from them. So please don't be shy. This is not the time where you need to be complete or perfect at all. Rather be complete and perfect when you write to the National Arts Council. Make all your mistakes here. That'll be great for everybody else and myself. Okay, guys, we're back. We're back. It's 11:41. I got already quite a few very nice statements of needs, guys. So we can start. You're still welcome to send through. I just want to give you a bit of good news. And that is that I just saw on our WhatsApp group with my other partners that we're going back to in-person workshops on Monday. So on Monday, those of you who have signed up for in-person workshop instead of this online business, you're welcome to go to the venue that you enrolled yourself for. And if this venue is Artscape, you'll meet me there, even though I'm not presenting on Monday, but I'll be there to serve you lunch and take questions if necessary or anything else. So I really love that. Thank you, everybody else. That must mean that, let's hope that the strike has been resolved. Another little practical, I see that there'll be a link. Yvette, are you with us? We're going to post a form on this platform for you to register. I think it's to acknowledge that you've been in this workshop. You know, we're talking numbers. For us too, we are now the recipients of a grant from the National Arts Council, and we need to provide numbers to the National Arts Council in our report on having provided these workshops to you. We need to specify how many people have benefited, where you're from, all of that, who you represent. So seeing that not seeing you face to face, we'll give you a form and please complete them. The next generation is asking something.
Yes, ma'am. I am from Beaufort West, and I really want to do this in person, as I have many questions to ask and to learn. So for me, I need transport to go there. I can arrange for me maybe accommodation by some artists of me, so I can sleep over there. But I will really need transport.
There is a provision for that. If you can write to me, to my email address afterwards, please, then I can get you in contact with. We have provision for transport. I don't know I don't know exactly how much, but definitely we can help with transport.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. I will do so.
Your details in the in an email to me, please. You got my address, right?
Yes, ma'am. Can I do that after the session?
Please, yes, not now. Yes, perfect. Because we're talking about Monday.
Yes, because Yes, because I am ready to do the activities.
Yeah, great.
Yes, I'm
Great.
ready, ma'am.
Thanks for that. I think somebody else is asking. Who is asking something? Was there another question? Maybe not. Okay, I'm going to now share my screen and show you some of the. I'm not sharing currently, right? No. Let me pull up some of the statements that you guys sent me. It's very good. Thanks a lot. In fact, they're still streaming in. I'll grab two at random, and if we can still carry on afterwards with more, I'll show more. There was a statement of need from Melo Kuchle, People of Purpose organization. Who sent it? And can you unmute yourself, please? Melo Kuchle came
Yes.
from
Zizi Kombizo. Melokuhle People of Purpose.
came from Masi.
It came from me, Zizi Kombizo.
Oh, Vuyisa. Yeah.
No, Zizipo, not Vuyisa.
Zizipos.
Zizipo.
Zizipos. I'm so sorry. I don't know. Okay, let me try and pull up your thing again. Okay, let's do this together. So I'll read it out, and then I'm going to first ask for some feedback from the room, you guys, to see if you feel that this statement of need outlines the problem that the organization is addressing. Are there some statistics, that's the numbers to make it real? Does it show passion about the issue? And does it say why this organization perhaps should be the one to tackle the problem? Okay, I'll read it out to you. Melekuchla People of Purpose Organization, Statement of Need. The length, by the way, is perfect. Eh? This is the type of length we're looking for if we're talking about a statement of need. Many young people are going through a lot, but they don't have the necessary platform to express themselves and vent their frustrations. True, I have a teenager at home. We've noticed that young people's passion and love for art has been abused, and that some young people are looking for the correct outlets to express themselves. Melo Kuchle People of Purpose organization has launched an art platform for young people to express themselves. AIM. Aha, okay, so this is a statement of need. I'll read the whole thing and then we go back to statement of need. The aim is young people who are aspiring to be artists tend to be emotionally neglected or not given the platform to fully express and showcase their skills. This frustrates most of them and will always escape. This frustrates most of them and will always escape to substance abuse. Not a perfect sentence. We have created this program to give them a home and to openly tackle issues and challenges that they are facing and encourage them to take the right path for their future. Now come the objectives, things we should be able to count. We want to engage youth and communities in innovative strategies that promote equality, repair harm, and prevent substance abuse. Second objective, we intend to provide positive role models, encourage self-respect and self-esteem, and recognize youth accomplishments. Third objective, we aim to achieve the mission through art. We will provide dance and drama classes. A lot to unpack there, hey? A lot of content, great. But possibly not all at the right places. But before I talk, is there somebody who dares to tackle this? Do you think that the statement of need describes the problem that should be addressed with passion? Tell me,
No.
Shai. Someone's talking.
And Miriam, there are also comments coming through on the chat if you want to pick up on those, if you can't hear some people talking.
Oh, really? That's really not what I like, but I'll try. Okay, where's the chat? Okay. No, that's something else. I suggest specific about what. Okay. Elizabeth says, I suggest specifics about what young people are going through, also touching on the potential for art and drama to support youth challenges. Elizabeth, do you want to just quickly unmute yourself and say what you mean?
Okie dokie, thank you.
No, I really appreciate that you're contributing. It's great.
Just the first sentence, it says, many young people are going through a lot. And I felt like it would be helpful to be just a little bit more specific about what kinds of things young people are going through, the kinds of problems that they're facing. I do know that you get to that a little bit later on in the paragraph, but I think instead of saying a lot, because it's sort of very vague, saying many young people are facing great challenges, and I'm not quite sure, that there's drug abuse. Okay, so many young people are facing severe challenges such as emotional neglect, and something else, so that it's specific immediately, the kinds of problems that you're looking to address. That was one little thought I had. And then you are proposing that art and drama can help to ameliorate or address some of these issues. So I thought it would be helpful to say at some point, art and drama have the potential to support young people. I'm just running off the top of my head now, in facing issues around emotional neglect or whatever else you suggest.
Sounds great. Yes. You could take my role. Thank you. Thanks a lot. I agree with what you're saying. In a way, altogether, all these words say everything, but I think they need to be organized a little bit more specific. So I like this last sentence. It's very good. Melekugle People of Purpose organization has launched an art platform for young people to express themselves. So here you're saying what you're intending to do. Here's your action. But possibly not specific enough. I would add this little bit. Melekugle People has launched an art platform for young people to express themselves through art, through providing dance and drama classes. Actually, this is what you're planning to do, right? You want to provide dance and drama classes to address those needs. So put it in, I think. It's nice, short and concise. And I agree with Elizabeth that going through a lot is not specific enough. So you're mentioning it here. Be real and specific here. What are they going through? Is it only now because we are after 2 years of pandemic, or is it in general? You can make it contemporary relevant if you like. There aren't the necessary platforms, is also good. We've noticed young people's passion and love for art. How have you noticed that? Maybe be a little bit specific. Have you seen it? Have you heard it? Even put in a quote of somebody who says, I wish, I could dance it all out, whatever. Yeah, it could be a little bit more information here. So add to statement of need, you can add, I think, one more paragraph. And then I'll carry on because you did all 3 of the assignments. Thanks so much. Does it make sense anyway, Sipo?
Yes, it does.
Does make sense? Okay.
Yes.
Okay. So the aim, remember, needs to be the quality thing, the thing of change also. It's very close to the statement of need. Young people who are aspiring to be artists tend to be emotionally neglected, are not given the platform to fully express and showcase their skills. Okay. Maybe not always escape to substance abuse. Like you have to be really, really real. You've done your homework. Like often escape to. Of course, not everybody escapes to substance abuse. We have created this program to give them a home and to openly tackle issues and challenges that are facing and encourage them to say, okay, I think this is the aim. This is the aim. You don't need this because it's already in there, or you can add it to there. But in fact, what you're aiming for is to give a home to the young people. You can repeat that. The young people that might feel emotionally neglected, to tackle issues and challenges that they are facing, and to encourage them to take the right path for their future. And then I would say through art, because of course it's art that you're dealing with, and it's an art donor that you're addressing. So an aim actually, I think, can be shorter and very specifically. Is there a verb of change here? Let me see. Remember, there must be a verb of change. So to give a home. I think that's a verb of change. And to openly tackle issues, definitely 2 verbs of change. And encourage them, 3 verbs of change. That's brilliant. Okay, if you use this as your aim, I think you've got a proper aim. And objectives, to be honest, remember, objectives are now things that you can count. They're connected to an output, not an outcome. They're not connected to a quality change, but they're connected to a qualitative change. So we want to engage youth and communities in innovative strategies that promote equality, repair harm, and prevent substance abuse is actually rather part of an aim. You know, if you want to say this, put it here or there, but it's not something you can count unless you say we want to engage 100 youth in the next 3 months. Now, if you give this a number, you can make it an objective. But if there's no number, it is either an aim or part of the statement of need. And we intend to provide positive role models, encourage self-respect and self-esteem, and recognize youth accomplishments. Again, it's not countable enough, quantitative enough to qualify as an objective. Okay, so it's still important that you say this is the real objective, I think. And then lose the word aim because it's an objective. So you can be quite, what do you call it, proactive or quite self-secure in stating your objectives. So we will achieve this mission through art by providing dance and drama classes. And maybe say how many, by providing weekly dance and drama classes over the period of 1 whole year. What do you think of that feedback, Sisipo? Is that doable?
Yes, yes, very helpful.
Thanks, okay.
Very helpful.
Whose statement of need is this? Please unmute yourself.
Mpundo Zono, that's my statement. It's Nyanda.
Hi, Nyanda, how are you?
Good, thank you, Mama.
You've been selected to be dissected.
That's a nice thing. So that's what this help is really needed.
No, it's great. So we don't have very much time, and it's a bit quick, but I think it's a good exercise for everybody. So again, I'm going to read yours. First comment is it's a little bit long as a statement of need, I think. But let me read through, and then I'm going to ask a feedback from the floor, same as we did. Okay, Bridging Communities is a forum theatre project that juxtaposes the substantial meeting point of social challenges in several communities. The Forum Theatre project uses collective memories of community members in the Eastern Cape, South Africa, by subverting many lived experiences during the time of the pandemic to unpack and find new answers to deal with social issues that had emerged. Could be the same as the previous project. So what makes a difference? The Keen Visuals Forum Theatre aims to provoke dialogues through an innovative forum theatre performance which encompasses echoes of the many laments for today. Forum theatre has made a huge mark and played a part in the transformation of theatre and the unraveling the many possibilities of theatre. Forum theatre has been able to bring up essential topics and issues that societies are experiencing. This method has evolved. This practice has been able to delve deeply into issues and finding solutions with the assistance of the audience. antagonizing the so-called not seen changes in our communities to stir forum theatre production uses the lenses of an impoverished community in speaking of the repercussions that we must deal with today, like alcohol and substance abuse, teenage pregnancy, poverty, and loss of hope that we are dealing with at such times that continue to be knocking at our doors. Questioning how is change key for the Eastern Cape during a time when pandemic has people longing for the old times of not losing so many people. Is the Eastern Cape a place of hope today, or is the present haunted? Azazi Masibalize. Don't know what I'm saying. Okay. Please, one from the floor. Can somebody give an input on this? Elizabeth? Yes, please. Elizabeth?
Hi there. Looks like a very interesting project. And there's a lot going on in there, but I would start with your problem, because you start by describing your project, and you have towards the end of the little piece, there you focus on, you have a number of words such as teenage pregnancy, poverty, and so on. And also that last little quote, is the Eastern Cape a place of hope, or is it a place of haunting? Those kinds of words could start at the beginning, and then you could start unpacking what your project has to offer to address those problems. So I would start with your problem right at the beginning.
True. I agree with that. Is there anybody else who would like to say something on the statement of need? We don't have much time in any case. Yes, there's somebody else.
Miriam, I'd like to add that I wasn't aware there was a quotation at the end, but Elizabeth has highlighted that for me because she obviously knows the source better than I do. So I would recommend that if quotations are used from outside sources, that they be put into inverted commas and then the source acknowledged. That's if it is a quotation, if I haven't misunderstood.
That's true. Yes. Thanks a lot, Fran. That's true. And actually, it's actually really good also to use a quotation in your statement of needs, because it's somebody else's voice, somebody else that, you know, might have the need. And it also acts like a picture also. Okay. So those were both very good feedbacks. Feedback number one for me is that it's definitely too long. Like a statement of need, make it only 2, maximum 3 paragraphs. And you know, English is not my first language. It's a lot of people's not first language. But there are a lot of highfalutin words in here that stop me from reading easily. So if I'm the donor, I prefer simpler language. It's just it's a personal thing, but I actually think that a lot of donors think that. So be quicker to the point if you can. Nyanda is the name. Foreign theaters make a huge mark. It looks like here you're coming to the point, you know, like alcohol abuse, substance abuse, teenage, that is what you're dealing with and what you're trying to tackle. Eastern Cape is important. Apparently, you know, be specific of where, geographically specific. It's the pandemic, it's now. So you're talking about a very contemporary issue. So those things you need to highlight, that must be in there. We're talking about now. These are issues. Eastern Cape is the region that you're talking about. And actually, I'm not finding what exactly you want to do. You want to do forum theater. So forum theater would be your action, right? Highlight that also. Make sure that there are enough words of action. Kind of the same. It's definitely all there. It needs to be arranged a bit more punchy. Create a punchline there and lose some of the beautiful words. I do that myself. Actually, literally, I go into a thesaurus And I find a beautiful but simple word that describes what I want to say, rather than the highfalutin language, because there's too much of that in the arts in any case. I'm being personal now, but I think that's how it is. Okay, are there any questions on this part, or can we move on to budgets, because we don't have much time left?
Do you still want to say something?
Who wants to say something?
Sorry, Miriam, I thought one of my participants did, but he says, okay, he wants to make a comment.
Okay.
Just introduce yourself.
Hi guys, my name is Kululeki Debanzi. I'm from Development Africa Strategy. People usually talk of an elevator pitch. I mean, I like what the gentleman or what Nyanga put there. It's very beautiful, but I don't think he made a very good effort at summarizing it. So I think he tends to repeat a lot of words and things that he could have said that in like 3 sentences actually, and I think it's like 3 pages.
I think in general that's a problem, and even myself, I'm guilty of that, because there's so much you want to say. You're so passionate about your thing that you want to use all those words, and it's fine to start but you probably write 3 or 4 versions of your own proposal. To be honest, it takes that long, and if you want to be successful, do it so many times, and then you start editing, and then just think back about a workshop like this. Oh, she said only 2 paragraphs, and I see everything that you can lose from your. That is a very good comment. Thanks a lot. Probably counts for everybody. Okay, can we go to budgeting, or is there another comment? Let's go to budgeting. Remember the logic model before our break, etc. What I was trying to say, that all the inputs, the whole list of stuff that you need to run your project has to be reflected in your budget. In other words, if you forget to mention that you need, for example, an administrator, then that administrator will not be paid for. You know what I mean? So here is the budget. This is a budget for that particular project of podcast. Remember, we call it the Lounge Plus. We really did run that project, not with Pro Helvetia, but with the National Arts Council last year. Thank you very much. And this is what it looked like. So I divide one little trick. I often start with the budget. I kind of know what I need to run the project, and then I first jot down what it might cost, and then I write back all the narratives. But that is just, again, a personal thing. You can also do it the other way around. So I often start with something called concept development and management. Like I'm the one writing the proposal. Our board might be the one thinking up the project, and some of our staff is in it. And already that costs something, so we know that we apply for projects also so that we can sustain our organizations, and normally nobody will pay for that, but project partners will pay for the chunk that actually helps you run your budget. So I'm saying here, you always say how many of what is the cost per unit, and then what is the total budget. So I'm saying here that a project manager who's going to run this project, we're going to need a project manager for 12 months, and we're going to pay that project manager 8,000 rand. The project manager is already in-house and might actually be might be on a salary of 16,000 rand per month, but I know that they're also going to still run exhibitions. So I estimate that only maybe about half the time of this project manager will be spent on these podcasts. So you have to be quite real. You cannot be exact, but think of how many projects do we run, and who spends which amounts of their time on this project, and you call that pro rata. So I'm saying that pro rata, the project manager that we already have in-house will spend 12 months, but only half the time of their 16,000 rand per month salary on this project. So I'm saying that this project costs 12 times 8,000 rand, 96,000 rand on a project manager. But I'm not asking all of that money from the National Arts Council, because in any case, I know that they're not keen to pay salaries. It's, they rather pay project costs, as in, materials and time, etc. So I'm asking the National Arts Council only for half of that. And the other half, I'll ask it from other grants, or maybe even we contribute it ourselves. We're already paying that project manager. So it's quite good that you showcase here that, this project manager, we know that they'll be spending half the time on this project, but in any case, we can cover something up from our regular salaries. That's how I do it. Same with the administration. We have an administrator in-house, of course. We'll need that administration for 12 months to make all the payments for the project and to jot down whatever needs to be administrated. The administrator probably earns about 10,000 to 12,000 a month. And she spends most of her time on other projects. And we estimate that only about 1/10 of her time will go towards administering this project. So I'm saying per month, we'll pay her 1,000 rand for this project, 12 months in total. So 12,000 rand weighs onto the budget of this particular project for our administrator. We're asking the National Arts Council for all that money. It's just, it's a lower salary, and I feel National Arts Council is likely to say yes to 1,000 rand per month for administration, proper professional administration of this project. It's kind of in their benefit, that things are administered professionally. Telecommunications, it costs something, of course, but there's a mistake. Oh, there's no mistake. I said that it's 0 times 1,000. It's a bit funny. I should have said 1. And we probably would not have asked for the telecommunications because it's so little that this particular project costs. And in any case, remember we needed high speed Wi-Fi, and that is here somewhere under the production cost. So here I said for telecommunications 0. Sometimes it's good to just list something that we know we're using it, but it's so little for this particular project. Don't worry about it. Artist physical participation. Okay, remember, so now the artists are meeting in one room and we're recording a podcast with them, but some of them are connecting with us through Wi-Fi, a platform like this, or we used something else, not even Zoom, we used Squadcast. So the ones that need to travel, there's a line item here for local travel and subsistence. That's another mistake. You should not have any mistakes in your stuff. Subsistence allowance for live participants. So now we're looking at 20 participants over the course of that whole year for the podcast. We will pay them 400 rand for either trying to get to our space and the lunch that they might have to buy, or the breakfast if they stay the night. And the total is 8,000 rand. We're asking all of that from the National Arts Council. Because I kind of know that this is the type of cost that you need to really research your donor. I know that they do tend to pay for sort of travel cost of participants in your project. And production cost is another thing that likely the National Arts Council might be interested in. So remember, we need to put some furniture in a lounge. We wanted to make this loungy. So even though it's a podcast, it was the time of the pandemic, we were all in front of our screens. We wanted people to feel relaxed and be able to talk about art projects that might have to happen in cyberspace, but be loungy. That's why it's called lounge. So we needed some lounge furniture and fittings. It's only one. We made there's a real quote there that we also sent to the National Arts Council of furniture and fittings, and it was 30,000 rand. And there I said, let's ask only half of that from the National Arts Council, because in any case, we'll use it for other things too, right? So it's fair that we don't want to run up the budget for the National Arts Council to more than 200,000 rand. So let's halve that. AV equipment speaks for itself. Here under this tab, I can't click it now, but when there's a little tab here, I specify exactly what it is. So that the donor knows you're not sucking something out of your thumb. You actually went out to get quotes and you know what things cost. And you're not choosing the most expensive of the lot also. So all the equipment that we need is probably going to cost 60,000 rand. We're only asking half of that from the National Arts Council, because we will also ask another donor, the province in this case. The fiber upgrade, we really needed it. So here's our high-speed Wi-Fi, 12 months long, 1,000 rand. 12,000 rand, we're asking only half of that from the National Arts Council, because our other projects will also benefit from that speed. The venue rental, of course, we have the house, but for these podcasts, we really need that one lounge. We cannot use it for other projects while we are doing this project. So we estimate that the running of that specific room, if we can't use it for exhibitions, will cost about 1,500 Rand per month. We're not using them all the 12 months because there's the 1 month of preparation and the 1 month of reporting at the other end. We only actually have 10 months of running 10 episodes, or I can't remember, 6 episodes. So 10 months times 1,500 Rand that we will charge for the venue because it's really going to cost us. We ask all of that from the National Arts Council. A technician is the external expertise that we needed to hire in. It's not in the house. So it's not part of our core sort of staff. This is an extra, somebody that we only engage for the project. There will be 6 podcasts. He or she will charge 1,500 per session. Not expensive, eh? That's the total, 9,000 Rand, and all of it we feel we can ask the National Arts Council. This is a good thing. We ask an intern to shadow the technician. And again, you research your donor, and in fact that in the landscape of South Africa, it's mostly appreciated if you job shadow somebody onto experts so that you're handing over skills. So we did really recruit an intern to be with us actually the full 12 months, but specifically to learn how one creates a podcast. So this intern, was there 10 months. The unit cost was only 2,000 for what he or she added to the production of this project. And we asked all of it from the National Arts Council. We needed a host or an interviewer, straight cost, project cost, some mapping, some stationery, stuff that we use, pencils, paper, and I told you the refreshments. Okay, marketing and communication is something different. I give it a different heading because I think a donor is interested in this because they know they might be credited here. So again, you can usually charge the full lot of marketing and communication to a donor because that's where they'll get some exposure, right? There's something back to them in that. So we need a content developer for graphics and editing. And it's quite expensive. These are experts. 6 months only, not the 12 months of the project, but only for the 6 specific episodes, 4,000. And this times this is this, and we charge all to the National Arts Council. The same for a camera operator to have some footage of your project will go a long way. You can put it on your website. You can put the footage on the National Arts Council website. They might want to use it for something else. You can charge real rates and ask the donor to pay for it. So where I'm coming, the full project budget is actually 309. Oh, I charge a contingent. I add a line item for contingency. Those costs that you hadn't anticipated, even though you thought about it so thoroughly and you listed and you checked and you corrected everything. There's always something that you forget. And make sure that it's never more than 10% of what you're asking, okay? Actually, a contingency, I think, generally is only about 5%. So the total of this project will cost about 319,000 Rand. It's too much to ask the National Arts Council, we felt. Certainly in the history of what we have received from them previously, and if you research what they were handing out in this particular time, we felt we could not ask them for more than 200,000. So here I'm showing to them how we plan to cover the rest, because of course they're not going to give us 200,000 if I'm not explaining where the rest might come from. So we also asked for money from the province, 60,000. I think in this case we already got that grant. So I should actually mention then confirmed. It's even better if you say confirmed grant from the province, 60,000 Rand. The donor in question will see, somebody's already put their money there, so I might add mine. And really, I recommend that you put some sort of own contribution. It's often the shortfall, because that, if necessary, you can save a little bit here, or, You can never save on items that you ask from the National Arts Council, because you're going to have to report for exactly that amount, or you know, you need to justify why it's a different amount. But you know that, you know, within your administration, for example, you can actually swallow some of these costs yourself. So that is my budget and cover plan. Do you have any questions on that?
Hi, Miriam. Thanks a lot for explaining that. That's very helpful.
Great.
Just something that comes up for me that I've been considering, and it's pointed out in the cover plan. I'll just say, and this isn't my strategy when I'm thinking about funding, is that I get you on, and some of the funders are asking you to find other funders, and that can be helpful, and also to mention your own contributions. What happens, or what advice do you have around, you know, someone like myself applying for funding to multiple funders and then listing, you know, the prospective funders as contributing to your project, but not necessarily securing that funding? You know, then is there a possibility that in this case, National Arts Council would, you know, give you the funding, but then you might not get the other funding, and then do you have to report back to them that the project now is compromised? It's just a scenario that I'm afraid of getting into if I, you know, set this whole plan up and then all the funding doesn't materialize. What happens then?
That is the horrible reality of our lives. Terrible. That is really true. In the NPO sector, that is how we operate. So you're constantly doing a balancing act, and you're literally juggling. And that's why I wish, and you know, if the National Arts Council are listening, and I always sort of ask for multi-year funding, because it helps our lives so much, and then we can actually plan. So what you're saying is you can't plan, and that's true. So you have to, it's totally up to yourself. There is no one solution. I always say ask multiple donors. So if you have one project, this one, ask 5 or 6 or 7, I would say. 10 is a lot, because you must be careful that you don't start repeating yourself. I'm ending up with that. You can't copy yourself, is what I'm trying to say. Go to 5 or 6 donors for something like this, and make sure, the one thing I'm doing as a sort of a secret device, and I'm not telling the National Arts Council, I have for myself always a minimum and a maximum budget. So this is probably the maximum budget, so the luxury version. And then I have another one of those budgets that I'm not showing to the donor. It has a minimum column. So I know that even if the project manager doesn't get paid, I'll do it myself on the salary that I have, you know. And you know, I ask the boards that I spend less time on the exhibitions that we normally run. So I have for myself a budget, the minimum that we need to be able to run this project. And then I'd say that minimum, you should ask only 1 or 2 donors. And if you don't get it, you have to be serious with yourself and say, I'm sorry, I cannot do this project. So you can write to the donor, you should. And you know, they always appreciate honesty, saying, I'm sorry, this was the plan. It's, you know, I didn't get the full funding. May I use it next year? Can you give me another year? You know, something like that can work. Actually, honesty is always rewarded, is what I found. So the more communication about any problem you might envisage, real problems that, you know, that impact on the donor, just communicate with them. Is that an answer?
Yeah, well, yeah, definitely an answer and strategy, and obviously the reality of having to cancel the project or perhaps negotiate, saying, you know, you came through, here's my adjusted plan. Maybe would you entertain that? Would you still be on board? I guess that's an option. I guess I also wonder, like, how much do funders speak to one another, you know, like, but maybe that doesn't happen and we may only know by asking them, but, you know, do they have some kind of network where they can see the projects that they're sort of potentially co-funding? That might be helpful to them, you know, too.
Yeah.
To see where they are potentially, you know, working together but not realizing it, you know.
Yeah, I think I'm also just guessing. I wish I knew, but I think not so much, except for I think every donor will check who else is credited on their project. and then might speak to these people. I don't think they proactively go out to find out how much did you support, anything like that. But it does happen, I think, in the private sector, you know, so sponsorship. I think sponsors might be more of a pool. So if Strauss & Co supports and let's say Zeit Mokka, I don't think they're a donor, I'm just hypothetically speaking, I think they might meet each other and they might speak to each other. So, oh, you see, I see you're supporting that project too. But it's rare that somebody goes to the detail of asking for your books. It does happen though. Every main donor, particularly government donors, they will say that they take the right to do an audit of your books if necessary. To me, in my 20 years experience, that's only happened twice. And both times was the national lottery that come out and literally goes through your books. So yeah, you have to be, of course, honest with if you say you spend certain amounts from a certain donor's money, it's best that you keep that separate even in your administration, in your financial administration. Make sure that literally I mark on an invoice from which grant this comes. And then it helps you in reporting afterwards too. But yeah, there is some lobbying happening amongst donors. I think it's only in the private sector. I might be wrong.
Thanks. Yeah, I was just a wondering of mine, but good points made through that. Thank you.
Okie doke. Any other questions?
Miriam, though my question is not really related on the budget now that you guys are on, but I just want to ask, because somewhere when initially we started, you mentioned that sometimes you must ask for a meeting before sending the proposal. So I want to know how you then go about that. Let's say, do you ask for a meeting when you know that there's a specific funding that they probably advertise, or where you, in a case where you just randomly sending this proposal to a certain organization? I don't know if you understand my question.
Yes, I understand. Yeah, thanks. That's a very good question also. So yes, though the meetings fall in the category of donors who do not publish a call for proposals. So it's not the National Arts Council really, it's none of the government donors, I don't think so. Because they have a very fixed system with very fixed dates of now is the call for proposals, this is the templates to apply within, you know, then is the outcome, and then is the reporting, and then it's finished. So it's very fixed, and they're not particularly keen on a meeting because they want to fund a lot of people and they want to be able to compare apples with apples. So they want exactly the same sort of template in which they receive all proposals. But it's the other category. So the sponsors and the people with the CSI, the corporate investment funds, and some foundations, maybe sometimes like Pro Helvetia, the British Arts Council, they're a bit more free or flexible in their systems. They have maybe an annual budget for donations in the art sector. And you might have read about them in that, that handbook, or you might have just met them at a party, or you went to a theater, a play, and you saw that they were supporting that particular production, and you do something similar. Then you could research them. Always first research online, find out if they don't have a specific system to apply within, like no templates, no call for proposals. And then you can send them a very polite and short email with your statement of need, and maybe a bit of passion, and maybe a quote, and maybe a photograph, and say, I'm running this project. I see that you support the arts in this particular domain. I would love to meet you. Do you have half an hour of your time? Can I visit you? And I think that's a very good thing. You must make sure that it's short and it's to the point and it's really nice. And then if you are invited for a meeting, say it's half the work done. You're already 50% in the door. And there's a whole sort of, it's not just that. So the meeting, and then you acknowledge the meeting, and you thank them for the meeting, and you ask by when do they need the proposal, and then you write your proposal. And that is actually a very good way in. I used to do a lot of fundraising that way, less so recently. I think, again, the pandemic has thrown that type of thing. But that type of networking is important for fundraising. what is a typical amount that a small size NGO, 3 million turnover, it's like we are 2 million turnover, could ask for a community-based art project. For instance, we were to request 200,000, but NEC would only consider 50,000, would we still be considered? I do think the second part of your question, would the National Arts Council consider paying for publicity support, which we would need to outsource? I think yes. Really, in my experience, marketing is a post that most donors like to spend on, even a lot. Because remember, they also spend whatever 50,000 rand on an advert in the Cape Times, or it might be more. I don't know what, but that's what they do. You know, both governments, both public and private funding. You know, it's important that they are seen. So they like that to be professional. I would put that on. I mean. It's not 100. It's not a fixed answer, but I would say yes. And the other question: if you are small and your project costs 200,000, but they'll only consider 50, it would still be considered, because remember this cover plan. You must think about, if they only give 50,000, where would you get the other 150? So just make sure that you indicate that you are searching for other funds, or that you can bear some of the cost yourself.
Yeah, thank you. That is an answer. But for instance, when I did this online template on the portal of the NAC in September, I didn't really have space to indicate. You know, I could indicate the other potential funders that we had approached. But yeah, I wanted to get to to showing that I really needed 200,000 rand. So the risk is, if I don't, if NEC would only consider giving 50,000 rand, that they would wonder where's the other, other money coming from if she needs 200,000 rand. I don't know whether I explain it nicely. Do you understand what I'm saying?
I think I understand. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I think you're also Dutch, right? I recognize my own.
Yeah.
It's
Yes.
not
I do.
Not Yvette. In any case, I see what you mean now. So yes. So then you have to be honest. Actually, yes. If it really is 200,000 that you need from them, then you must say that. Then you say there's no other funds, or there are other funds that's been allocated and it's been also granted, but without 200,000, you're not going to be able to pull off this particular part. Then be honest and say that. And then they also know if they can't give the 200,000, then there's just no chance of doing this. Because most donors, if they cut so much, if they cut 75%, then they ask you to send in a new budget, a realigned budget. They say, we can give you 50,000. What can you do with that? And then you still have a chance to say, okay, we cut this and this and this and this, and we can now do a snippet of the project. That's happened to me before, particularly with the National Lottery. They tend to slash budgets quite radically. And then you say, okay, instead of 3 exhibitions, we can do 1 exhibition with what you're proposing to give. So it changes everything in your proposal, changes the outcomes, and then the ball is back into the donor's court. Do they want to support it like that? Or you can say, no, it's not possible on that budget. Then again, the ball is in their court. But I think you need to be honest, because we can't bend in every direction for donors. We need to run our projects, and they cost what they cost. So again, it's a scary business to be in, but it's possible.
And then, sorry, I think of another thing. Would NAC, would they under no conditions consider art competitions or contests to kind of provide an incentive to emerging artists that are maybe not yet recognized in the sector? I mean, our application was declined or rejected after they read the word art contest, and I thought, well, it is quite a nice thing to offer.
That actually, I honestly don't know. That's so you need to ask them that.
Can I jump in on that, please, Miriam?
Yeah.
Thanks very much. You're actually talking to Hedwig from the Butterfly Art Foundation. She's down with ASSITEJ at the moment.
Okay.
So Hedwig, the National Arts Council, in their calls, they're very, very clear about what they will and will not fund in their calls. And I have seen them in the past say that they won't fund, for example, competitions, or they won't fund exhibitions. They're very clear about what they will and will not fund. So my advice would be that when next you are applying to the National Arts Council or to any other arts-related funder, that you really are quite vigilant about checking what they will and will not fund. I hope that's helpful. Can I also just say, Miriam, we are a little bit pressed for time now, and we probably will need to just take a short lunch break before we begin a bit later with the next afternoon session. And Mandisi in the group has also had hand up for a while. So can we maybe hand to Mandisi to chat and ask your question, please?
Perfect, yes. And shall we make that the last question, perhaps?
I think that'll be helpful. Thanks, Miriam.
Okay, thank you.
Hello. My name is Mandisi, and I'm ambassador for the Sunshine Cinema and co-founder of MP Arts. So this year when I applied, the only problem with the NSC was my budget, because I think I put too many, I think the budget was way over their amount. Can't the NSC find ways to incorporate like small creative people like us into finding a way to guide us basically when we make these kind of mistakes, to put more money than they already offer into advising us and be like, okay, you had a good idea and the project is fine, but since your budget is way over, we're gonna say this is the amount that we're gonna give you, and then you have to incorporate your project to this amount, because it's very painful to go through another year again just because of a budget.
Yeah, it's true. But you're at the right place. This is what it is. This is the answer. So the National Arts Council has acknowledged that problem, and that is quite strict. So that's why they have mandated us, provincial partners, ASSITEJ, CDI and Suidoosterfees and ourselves, to talk to you now. So this is where you're learning between now and Monday, and in the 3 sessions next week that are one-on-one or small group sessions, counseling. This is where you can learn these specifics. And of course, after that, you're not immediately a fully flung fundraiser, but after this, my advice is to read and reread their, what is it called? Their call. So like Fran just said, particularly National Arts Council, they're very specific in what they will fund. And it's not the same every year. So whenever a call is there, you must really see like which particular work are they funding, what is the total size of the budget. I told you we were also rejected because we over asked. And it's just dumb, and because it's there in writing. So even if you've written your proposal, because of course you don't write it in one day, it takes a couple of days, go back again to their call and make sure that there's nothing in your proposal that immediately disqualifies you, because it is a harsh landscape and it is how it is. They will not come back and say, oh, I really loved that proposal. Sorry, it's a little too high. Can you adapt your proposal? They're not doing that because too many people are asking. Does it answer, Mandisi, your question?
Yes, no, it definitely answers. But as creatives with this industry that is already falling apart, we as the youth, we also have to put up into entrepreneurship and also have to produce our work and also have to prove that we have produced this kind of work with this kind of project. So it does take a toll on you when you just make a small mistake, because sometimes with, like, for instance, in my case where they said it was 350,000 that I should have asked for, not 450, not 400 and some. I think I put many zeros in my budget, which that was one of the default of some of the systems that we, like some of the systems that we use. So it's quite nice if they kind of get the project, and they could also like interact with us, the people that they send out this rejection to, so that they can get to see the kind of work that is already on the floor, that is already being produced, because we have to do the business and the budget and or the project and run the project and go see all those people. We have to monitor and evaluate and do this whole process sometimes by ourselves, because we can't send out empty promises to creatives that have to join these kind of projects that we're trying to do and say, no, okay, you do this for free, but at the longer stage, you're gonna get money. But do creators want money now? And for us to do this kind of work, it's so painful to watch our country reject us like this, because as we the youth, we want to make a statement and we want to make a mark in our country, but we don't get those chances because of minor things like this, which set us back, because we have to go back. We can go back and do the process, but now we have to go back to the drawing board, because now we've already went far ahead with what we wanted from them, because there are other people who are willing to assist us, but in just small things that don't get us quite, they don't make that voice that we want to make, basically.
Yeah, no, I get you. I feel you, because we've been there, but it is the reality. But did you sign up for one of the coaching sessions that happen next week? Because you can speak to one of us, one of the 4 partners, directly, and then more specifically about the project. I think you should do that.
No, I did sign up for. I did. Yeah, I think I'm gonna join. Yes, but I did sign up for the one-on-one sessions. Also.
Yeah, I think then we can, because we're really here now. We're mandated to help, particularly also the smaller projects, to be more compliant with the requirements of the National Arts Council. So the big government donors, like National Arts Council, they don't have the time to come back to you. They can't do the one-on-one interaction because they just deal with too many applicants, and they're too far away also. That's why we are little intermediates, but even we are so small and we don't have a lot of time. What you can speak to other donors, like foundations and private donors and sponsorship donors. So again, I'm pressing the point that you mustn't put all your eggs in one basket. Don't only ask the National Arts Council. So find other donors. And in the beginning of my presentation, I've given you some indications of where you can search for other donors. And you'll find out, and you can ask people like us, like some of the smaller donors, they're happy to pick up the phone or answer your email, or you can ask for a meeting as long as you're polite about it. And then there is a one-on-one interactions, and they might understand your need. I need to bring it to a close, right, Fran? Because otherwise nobody will have lunch and we're running. And so I'm not even going to finish my proposal. If you see this share, I only had one more slide that says it pushes that proposals must be different. You must learn to speak the language of the donor, and that's by research. And there's another one that the National Arts Council themselves provided material. By the way, all our material will be shared with you. I'm not entirely sure how, either via the National Arts Council or through us, but whoever has signed up for this program will receive slides, and the National Arts Council has developed material that will be shared with you. I picked up one slide where they say the strategy of fundraising. Okay, the last slide is raising funds is an investment in the future. It's also for you, Mandisi. So you do start doing this thing for free. I also started it for nothing, and then later some money might come. Raising funds is an investment in the future. The recommended process is not a formula to be rigidly adhered to, but a suggested approach that can be adapted to fit the needs of any applicant and the peculiarities of each situation and each donor. Fundraising is an art as well as a science. So you must bring your own creativity to it and remain flexible. So I want that to give you that as a parting sentence, because thank goodness we are all creatives. And really, the more creative we are, don't go overboard, sorry, but be creative enough that every donor that you approach knows that you're approaching them. And it's not 1 out of 10, copied documents. That is just a no-no. I will know if somebody sends me a proposal, it might have even, sometimes it's so dumb, it has the wrong name on it or something. You can do that, but even you can use the wrong language, like not the language that the donor is used to speaking. So yeah, investigate them and make sure it's a one-on-one thing. And yeah, just invest your time because it will eventually pay off. So I want to thank you all. I want to thank these partners, CDI, ASSITEJ, Suidoosterfees, National Arts Council. Thank you very much. And I hope that I'll see some of you next week in the one-on-one sessions. And in person, those who are coming on to the Monday workshop to Artscape, I'll see you too. Thank you so much.